and welcome to another episode of Talk Uncensored. I am your host, April Hogan. I keep forgetting to say Talk Uncensored Florida. I'm in the beautiful sunshine state of Florida, although it is rainy currently because it is hurricane season. So welcome to Talk Uncensored Florida, Season 4, Episode 2. I'm so excited to be here. I actually just got back from a business trip, so I'm a little tired. That's the life of an entrepreneur, right? Like, you got to do what you got to do. So today I have the lovely opportunity to invite one of my fellow co-hosts from the book that her and I both co-authored in, called The Beautiful Face of the Invisible Illness by Miss Nadia Manzano. So if you guys have been following Talk Uncensored, you guys know I have been interviewing all of the co-authors because you'll get to learn about their invisible illness. So you guys got to learn a little bit about mine in last episode 2 weeks ago, because I kind of gave you a dive into what has been going on with me over the last 5 to 6 months. But I'm continuing to let you guys hear the stories of these beautiful women who are going through an invisible illness. Also, keep in mind that as you're listening to these women's stories, start paying attention to your own body, right? One of the things that I hear almost every one of the women say, and I know I can attest to it in my own life as well, is something important is knowing your body, right? Someone can give you a solution, a medicine, things that you should and shouldn't do, but you really need to pay attention to your own body, because only your body can tell you what's not working and what is working, right? So making sure that you pay attention to your body. Another very common denominator across all illnesses is stress. That stress actually helps bring on the condition or a flare of the condition or whatever you call it. So making sure that you're putting yourself in the least stressful situation, not allowing things to get to you. I actually read a book recently called The 4 Agreements. I may have talked about this before on the show, but I'm going to talk about it again, where it talks about the agreements, the things that we agree to, right? So any type of emotion, we are agreeing to that emotion. If we are depressed, we're agreeing that we're going to be depressed. If we're sad, we're agreeing that we're going to be sad. If we're mad, we're agreeing that we're going to be mad. You know, like, you control how you feel and how you react to something. Granted, messed up things are going to happen. Absolutely. But it's only 10% of what happened, and it's 90% of how you react to it. So you choose how you react to a terrible situation. You choose how you feel about a terrible situation. Now, of course, if something makes us sad, we're going to be sad, but you can choose to sit in that sadness, or you can choose to come up out of it, right? Whatever that looks like. And it looks differently for other people, for different people. And it may not happen instantly. Like, I'm not going to say something tragic happens and I'm sad, and all of a sudden I'm going to say, you're not sad. I'm not sad. That's not how it works. But you can also drown in sadness, where you can decide to be sad for weeks and months and years at a time. Or you can say, all right, this happened. There's nothing I can do to control that this happened. So now I'm going to decide to move on. I have to move on. I have to take myself out of this space, whatever that looks like, whether it's some type of therapy, whether it's journaling, whether it's talking to somebody like a family member, a best friend, whatever that looks like. Doing something that's fun, just getting yourself out of that mindset and training your mind. Discipline, training your mind to say, I'm not there anymore. I'm not going to allow myself to sit there. So Miss Milicent Driver is coming on today to talk about her invisible illness, and then her chapter in The Beautiful Face of the Invisible Illness. So with that being said, I'm going to take us to a commercial break. And when I come back, we're going to get a chance to talk to Miss Milicent Driver. I will see you after these messages.
Are you ready to unlock the lucrative opportunities of government contracting but unsure where to start? Look no further than Rich Innovations. At Rich Innovations, we specialize in empowering businesses like yours to thrive in the competitive world of government contracts. Whether you're a seasoned contractor or just starting out, our expert team is here to guide you every step of the way. First, we'll help you navigate the complexities of SAM.gov registration, ensuring you're fully compliant and ready to bid on federal opportunities. We craft compelling, winning proposals that highlight your strengths and meet all the stringent government requirements. We also assist with obtaining essential certifications that can give you a competitive edge in the marketplace. With Rich Innovations by your side, you'll navigate the government contracting landscape with confidence and success. Visit erichinnovations.com today to learn more about how we can help your business grow through government contracts.
In today's competitive business landscape, staying ahead means delivering exceptional customer service. Are you tired of struggling with resource constraints, high operational costs, and inconsistent service quality? You're not alone. Many businesses face these challenges every day. But with Rich Innovations, you can overcome these obstacles and take your business to new heights. Our comprehensive call center and BPO solutions offer cost savings, access to skilled professionals, scalability, and advanced technology. Don't let challenges hold your business back. Contact Rich Innovations call center and BPO solutions today and experience the difference.
Welcome back to Talk Uncensored. I'm your host, April. Just like I said before we went to break, I have the opportunity to invite Miss Milicent Driver to the show. How are you doing, Milicent?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. So a little bit of background, you guys. We are in a book together called The Beautiful Face of the Invisible Illness. We actually got to meet for the first time back a couple months ago, which was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. It was. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about, first of all, what is the name of your chapter in The Beautiful Face of the Invisible Illness?
The name of my chapter is Mind Over Matter. Resilience after ischemic stroke. So that's my invisible illness.
Okay.
Is ischemic strokes.
Okay.
So
So tell us about that.
Well, ischemic strokes is more of, I guess, the quieter stroke instead of like the massive stroke that affects the brain as far as like more like the coma, the blood clots, the busted blood clots, things like that. So ischemic is basically a blood blockage in the brain. Okay. So it's more of the smaller scale, but the effects can be major. When I was having the ischemic strokes, I didn't even know I was having them. So they were small ones that I was having, okay. And I think because I'm anemic and I didn't have enough iron in my blood, the blood thickens. So the blood wasn't moving, through my veins like it should. So they were kind of getting sticky and clotting. So of course I didn't know anything about that until after the fact. So with the ischemic strokes, it was starting to cause, little blockages in my brain, and I was having small strokes. I didn't really, I had some symptoms, but I didn't know what those symptoms really meant. And then I had another stroke that was a little bit more intense in that October. And that's how I found out what was really going on, because then I ended up in a stroke hospital at that point. Wow. So still wasn't as extreme as a massive stroke, but it was enough for me to for it to change my life.
Right. So now that you know that you have it, are there any signs that you can think of that someone can use to identify the?
Oh yeah. So one of the things that I would notice is that things just seem kind of distorted. Sometimes everything's fine, and then things are just kind of just distort. Like one side of my brain seems to be over here, the other side over here, and you actually could see it. And one time I was just like, I felt like I was between two worlds. Then it just kind of eased up. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know what that was, but maybe I was just kind of going through something. Mm-hmm. Then every now and again, I would get like a real sharp pain through my head, and it wouldn't last. It would just be a quick pain. Then it'd go away. So I was like, okay, wait, I didn't, pay attention to that really either, So these things were kind of happening on and off. And those are the things you need to be paying attention to.
Right.
Then I started to experience some short-term memory loss. And the reason why I didn't really worry about that at the time is that I had just went through a tragic situation with losing my son in the year before. Well, it wasn't even the year before. So, when you're grieving and you're going through something traumatic, your body reacts in a different way. So I'm thinking, okay, well, this is just part of the grieving process. I'm mourning. My body, is going through the motions because I'm emotional, because of the pain, So you're thinking all these different things. So, you're not even paying attention to the fact that, okay, these are stroke, symptoms. And a lot of times people don't think about the ischemic stroke, because they're smaller. So they don't pay attention. We only focus, we really only focus, on the massive strokes. What to look for a massive stroke. They're really pretty much the same. It's just, the origin behind it is kind of different. So another thing too was my vision. Um, um, my vision, and sometimes I could see well even with my glasses, and then sometimes it's like I just could not focus in. I just trying to figure it out, trying to figure out the words. Even driving at night became difficult. But the thing with that is that it wasn't consistent. It didn't just last a long time and then it got better. It was like quick moments of those things. That's why I didn't pay attention to it. So it wasn't lingering.
Okay, no, I completely understand how that would make it, because we all kind of go through stuff, just random time. So it may like make you not really pay attention to it if it fixes. And then if you're anything like me, I don't like the hospital. So if it fixes,
right. Oh my goodness. Yes. So I was like, okay, I'm good. And you like you said, nobody wants to be sick. You don't have to even think about having to go and get nothing checked out. You just wish it away.
Right, exactly. They always find something. Tell me, in terms of like your invisible illness, how has it changed your life from what you remember prior to having it?
I was a multitasker before. I mean, I went to school. Early on, I've always multitasked, and I always, ambitious. I'm gonna go after my goals. I was in the military. I did that, and then I went to college, and I got the different degrees, multiple degrees, and then I was still working on a couple of my degrees while I was working. So I'm multitasking. I'm doing this. I'm business ideas. I'm just tapping into all kinds of stuff. And all of a sudden it got difficult to concentrate on more than one thing. And after the stroke, if I had a task and I had to work on that task or something else, I totally got frustrated. I couldn't do it. When I first, after I got to the hospital, there was no doing nothing like that. It was just not going to happen because I couldn't. And I went into a depression because when you're, used to being a go-getter, when you're used to having a drive and you're doing your thing, and all of a sudden you can't hardly even go, to order food without getting confused, feeling frustrated because you feel that others aren't being patient, that changes your whole life. Now I felt like I was looking crazy or feeling like I was looking stupid out there because they asked a question and I had to say, okay, well, give me a minute. It was simple things that maybe, I should have known. I just couldn't get it. So my life had changed from that in that aspect. I didn't want to go out. I was embarrassed about not being able to comprehend certain things right away. I couldn't remember things right away. I needed a minute to even handle my business. I had to try to remember things concerning my personal business. And then I was on a cane for a while because I had like weakness on my left side. So I had to walk with that for a while. Well, I tried without it. I failed, so I was frustrated.
Yeah.
And that was, I don't even know. It's like I just didn't even know how to even deal with myself. And I'm not talking about just for a little bit. This is years of me feeling like that, even though the symptoms eased up, I still for years was in a slump. I couldn't pull myself out. And I'm like, this, because of that, I'm like, you're going to have to get yourself together. You can't go out like that. You don't have a reason to.
So while you're saying that, what did your recovery look like? Because of course we've met in person, and I see everything that you do. So even though I feel like when you're going through an invisible illness that is continuous, you're always recovering, right? But from where you were at to where you are now, how did you get yourself out of that space to where you are now?
Well, being a woman of faith, I would, was going to church all the time when I was, younger, 20s, 30s, that was just my whole life. But when I was going through that with my son, and then after the strokes, I had to really lean on that relationship with just me and God. I really had that intimate relationship because I wasn't going to church. I was separating myself from a lot of different things. So I got to really hear his voice, of what is it that I needed in my own life. So I would sit, I would sit and I would just kind of, I started, to exercise my brain. I just started playing games on my phone and just little things to try to, challenge myself and, keep going. I needed to do something fun. And then as I was still praying, I was like, it's got to be something more for me to do. Because, going through some things that you go through, sickness or heartache, you'd be like, I know that it's got to be something I got to do with all this pain. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sitting
yeah,
down and I'm just, I just started brainstorming. And it took a while for me to really figure out what it was that I wanted to do. So I started doing little bitty things, throughout the years. Like in 2013, I took a coaching course, and I just said, let me take this coaching course. I did that. So it wasn't intense. It was enough to get me going. And then I started doing, I went to did evangelism and exhortation. I went to school for that. So it wasn't a major thing, but it was small things to just see, to stretch my brain, to stretch me, and then to kind of build that self-esteem back in myself. So I
right.
really wasn't doing nothing still then, but just that little bit. But
Mhm.
I started to see a difference in me, and I
Yes.
started to feel motivated. But when
Mhm.
I started to come into, okay, more of the the branding, the coaching, and the writing, and sharing my stories, speaking, then it just seemed like a whole nother world opened up, and that was within the last 3 years.
Mhm.
And so it was like, wow, okay. I was
Mhm.
like, I can do something. I am worthy of something. I still have something inside of me that I can give. So that's kind of how it happened, as far as that. Physically, that kind of just took care of itself. The brain rewires itself a little bit and it
Mhm.
heals in a different direction. So you start to tap into that part of it and you start to strengthen that. That's where the games and, some of the courses that I was taking, things like that, to stretch my brain and get,
Yeah.
myself. So, that's that in a nutshell. Of course, it was the highs and the lows in between all of that. But
Mhm.
that's, for me to get to, past that point on the other side. I'm grateful that I was able to tap into some things that really kind of brought me joy and lifted my spirits. Now,
Right.
still some struggles there, not much, but unseen things, may pop up here and there that I know others may not see it, but I know it's there. But
Mhm.
I just, I can get through that. I can get
Right.
through it.
Right, right, and that's life. We're always
Yeah.
going to have the ups and downs. I mean, if that's the case, if that's not the case, then I don't think we'd be here. So,
Right.
I will say, first of all, you can tell that you host a podcast because you almost lead me into my next question every time you talk. Because
Oh,
the next question has everything to do with business. But I do want to say, based on what you're talking about already, and I say this a lot, sometimes we don't understand why we go through certain things,
yes.
but even just hearing your story, where you were at, what you had to go through to pull yourself out to get here, that story wasn't for you, it was for somebody else. So you had to go through it in order for you to now be that influence, because now you're speaking, now you're teaching,
Yes.
now you're coaching, right? Like, and someone needed you to go through that in order for you to get in this space. Because somebody's going through it and they are not as strong as you and they can't maneuver the way that you maneuver. So God puts us in a space just for that reason. So I love hearing that. But so my next question is, you talked about coaching. You talked about the new business venture. So tell us about your new business venture as well as your podcast.
Well, the new business venture, of course, is well. When I started, it was my focus was on coaching, but
Mhm.
when establishing the coaching program, I ended up, of course, going into being an author and speaker to, support that. So that
Right.
for the first part of my, branding and business, I was speaking and I was doing, writing and being a part of different anthologies like we're a part of,
Right.
and
Right.
my own books. So, and so just this particular time, I really started to focus on within the last 6 months. Really started to focus on my coaching program, and the coaching program is really about it. When I developed the coaching program, it was the experiences that I went through when I first started, what I was missing, what I got that was good, and what I needed. And I developed a simple course around that for those who are coming into this world that needs that foundation, that really just don't know what to do. There's a lot of programs out here that, will give you X, Y, and Z. but that is not even where you at yet. You know, you don't need that just yet. You know, how to make $1 million with your coaching program. That's fine. But how do you even know if that's what you want to do? How do you even get to that point? You know,
Right.
where's your mindset? Are you ready for this? You know, then once you, feel like you are ready for this, then what are your goals? What are your desires? What do you see? You know, what are you trying to do? We don't, a lot of times you have an idea that's deep down inside, but until you start to chip away at all of that stuff, you don't even really understand what it is that you're really trying to do. So that
Right.
program
Right.
is for that. But then along the way in the program, we help with branding. Now, we want, simple branding, because you change all the time in your business. So what you're doing at the beginning, of course, in a year or two, your brain may look totally different, but you
Absolutely.
need some place to start. So that's what,
Mm-hmm.
that's the motivation behind that, to really get them out there, because once they see that they have a website, or they got a logo, or they got some brand colors, things like that, they start to feel like, okay, this is really starting to look like something.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
but those are the things that I kind of had to figure out, even with a coach. I had to kind of figure out a lot on my own, which was frustrating. So,
Mm-hmm.
you look at those things and you say, well, like you said, I've been through that. So now how can I support someone where they don't have to really go in the trenches so deep to try to,
Right. Right.
just even get the basics. We talking
Right.
about the basics. We want to do that. So that's the part of my program. That's the first program that, of my coaching program that I have right now.
Mm-hmm.
With some bonuses as far as simple marketing. They would get the bonus for that, and they will also, I have some other little trinkets like time management, money
Mm-hmm.
management, just kind of like some small little things like, journals, and just a few things to help them to be able to manage some of those things to help them be successful in the beginning. But it
Right.
all
Right.
kind of
Right.
ties in according to, the course. The podcasting, again, within the last 6 months, I wanted to, I had the vision a little over a year ago. And it's
Okay.
one of those things that I put it out there, and I was like, it's coming in August, and nothing. But it wasn't
Okay.
time for that. It was not time for that. God had released me to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
once I did, release, I think it was maybe a year and a half later, I finally got a chance to, do that. Along the way, of course, learning, the tricks of the trade, and learning from, people who's been doing it like you for a while. I mean, just really getting my feet wet. So that's been a total adventure, and it's been great for me,
Yeah.
meeting so many people, just learning about myself, learning to slow down,
Yeah.
talk slower,
Mm-hmm.
not to get confused in my thoughts. So it's been a challenge. I've been putting myself out there. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even know how I sound today, because, I might get lost in a thought or something like that. That's part of what I've been through. So it's okay. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
just being myself.
Uh-huh.
So that's where I'm at right now. Those are the two newest things that I'm working on. And
Mm-hmm.
from in the new physical year, which everybody said their physical year starts in July,
Mm-hmm.
and in a new physical year, the next half of this year is really what I want to start really focusing on, the coaching. I've done in the past. I've done some master class. I have a private community, a Facebook community, and also have a public page that I was interacting a lot on there. So I'm really about to amp it up and really, really, really support those who, trust and follow me, and really give them some things so that we can, take this, the end of this, next chapter for the rest of this year by storm, and really dive into some things and make some things happen. Because what I've started to realize is that it's a big old a platter of everything on out there. We just got to
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
on it, and get some of it. So that's what I'm excited about, and what's coming. And I'm also you know been getting more speaking engagements throughout the year. So I'm very grateful for that, because people are actually, if you put yourself out there and position yourself, people, are willing to give you an opportunity. They
Yeah.
really are. And I'm grateful for that,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes you feel like, well, I'm not worthy of that, or I still need some growing to do. You just got to jump in there. You
You
just got
do.
to jump and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
get it done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I must first say I love the fact that your coaching program starts at the beginning,
Yeah,
because typically people start at the 6-figure, 7-figure mark,
yeah,
but you got to start somewhere. And
yeah,
starting all the way at the 6-figure, 7-figure mindset can be overwhelming. And it's why a lot of people kind of like tap out, like, all right, because you got to meet somebody where they are. And if they're in a space right now, like I feel like a lot of those programs, they concentrate on things, not even realizing that some people just need the basic level. Like, give me the basic level. I'll get to that other point. But first, can we start here? Because I don't even understand half the things you're saying.
Exactly.
So yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So with your podcast, tell me a little bit more about like what type of content, like what type of interviews do you do? What is the overall concept of the podcast?
Well, the concept that I had is called Tea with the Queens. And the concept was transformation, empowerment, and acquire. And with the acquire, it was basically taking those skills and applying what we've learned on the podcast and applying it to our lives, into our businesses, however, even spiritually. But I've since changed acquire to achievement. So I'm like, we can acquire, but I'm like, what are we going to do with it? So that achievement is more of an action, and more of an outcome. So it's with the Queens with transformation, power, and achievement. And on the platform, I talk to women that talk about their life experiences and how it is how it has poured into their own lives, their businesses, the inspirations that they have, the things that they've been through, how they overcame those things, or even some simple business tools and techniques to help us, to be more successful. I've talked to women who's talked about grieving. I've talked to women who's talked about relationships. We've talked about we've talked about business. We've talked about how to start your business and how to, sustain your business. Talk to women who's talked about illnesses from sickle cell to diabetes to heart disease. I mean, it's really about the information for the total woman. So we talk about so many different things. I think some of the things that we talked about that really, really, really hit home with a lot of the women, and it wasn't even intentional, was loss. A lot of people experience loss, and it has been a barrier to them being able to move on and to do the things they desire to do. But these women actually push through and on the other side of those things. So those conversations always deep and they're always emotional. Like I said, some amazing women. I mean, some things that they've talked about on the show has been remarkable. Like I said, I had an interview with a lady that was bedridden. And she has a whole organization. She has a coaching program. She writes books, but she's bedridden. But her goal was to come on and say, hey, you can do whatever it is you desire to do. If I can do it from this bed, then you can do it. So it's about the motivation. I don't have a set stream, but it's from the heart. We talk. I really talk to the women, and I give them a platform to talk from the heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I just kind of started a male part of it called All the King's Men, the men shall speak, just to give the men an opportunity to talk and to share. That's kind of been, I've only hit 2 men so far, but that's kind of leaning more toward business techniques for real, So they're not really touchy-feely like the women. But so it's still developing. I really like the way it flows. I do. I want to keep that atmosphere safe, a safe place to talk, for them to be able to share, and then prayerfully reach the masses with their message. So So as it develops, I may tune in and tone it down into a particular talk. I don't have one yet.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can have a broad, like I say, mine Talk Uncensored. It's about the person, right? Like. And what we go through in life in general. So it could be about business, it could be about parenting, it could be about life. Like, it's about the person. So it could be a very broad topic if that's how you want it. I mean, you got to go in the way that you're being led. So So tell me, for the viewers, where can they find you? So anyone who is interested in watching the podcast, or anyone who is interested in potentially starting in your coaching program, where can they find you, both whether it's website and social media?
Social media, I have my public page, which is Milicent the Strategist. Okay. And also my website is milicentthestrategist.com. You can find me on both of those. And if you come on there, Tea with the Queens, it's teawiththequeens.com// Driver. But if you come to my page on Facebook, Milicent the Strategist, you'll see all the videos and you'll be able to get to the videos from there. I stream on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, other ones. I can't think of all of them, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have trouble thinking of all of them too.
Yeah, so they'll be streaming. They stream that way, and also on Instagram, I'm just at Milicent Driver. It's very simple. At Milicent Driver on Instagram. So pretty much the same content on LinkedIn. Milicent Driver as well. So I share on LinkedIn. I do share probably more at this point business tools and things like that. I'm going to be, of course, transitioning it back to Milicent the Strategist like I did before. But that's the thing about when you're doing business and you're growing, multitasking. I'm getting better at multitasking because I have to make sure that I take care of those that follow me. At one point, I was just, Johnny on the spot, and then stuff started happening. I'm like, oh my goodness, good things, but it's about the balance. So I would so that page is really going to be filled with a lot of tools and techniques and a lot of interaction. And I have my private Facebook group. So if you're interested in that, you can find that through Milicent the Strategist, and I can make sure that you get and become a part of the community. And in the community, we dive a little deeper as far as, more. I get more tangible tools, things like that, to even start to get your wheels to turning about even my coaching program. So it's just kind of there where we just kind of talk and bounce things off of each other. And also it's an area where if you have something that you want to share to the audience, you can feel free to do it there in a private Facebook group. But that's the best way. So if you're interested in the program, then you can reach me there. And also through my email, info@milicentdriver.com. So as the coaching program is getting ready to start, really talking about that more. So it'll be more tangible. My apologies that is not as tangible right now. But if you come to Milicent the Strategist, you're going to be able to connect with me and find that and get that. So.
Okay, absolutely. And I'll make sure all those links are at the bottom of the screen so you guys can make sure you guys go check her out, join the Facebook group, see what's going on, and go look at the podcast. Absolutely. So before we end, first of all, I want to thank you for coming on Talk Uncensored. Secondly, do you have any last words or pieces of advice for our viewers?
Yes. The last thing that I can say is don't allow opportunities to pass you by because you feel that you might not be able to do it based on an illness or based on a lack of opportunity, education, money. I'm just saying, jump out there because you just never know what support is out there for you. And you'd be surprised, the world can be a dark place for a lot of people, but there is still a whole lot of good and there's a whole lot of light out there. So if you jump out there, you just never know who's going to take you and they're going to support you and they're going to, wrap you in their arms and really, guide you, lead you and be that support. So whatever it is you desire to do, don't let things stop you because you got this life to live and you have to give it your all. So whatever's burning on the inside of you to do, just look, around you and just see how many people are really doing things and being successful at it. And just know that they're being successful and they're doing those things, but trust and believe life is happening still to them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely. Love it. So again, I want to thank you so much for coming on Talk Uncensored. And I, of course, as we go, I look forward to having you on again as you hop more obstacles and do more in your business. I look forward to having another interview in order for us to kind of go over what's new. So
I appreciate everything.
Absolutely. For my viewers, again, make sure that you follow the links at the bottom of the screen. Go check out Miss Milicent Driver, and I will see you after these messages.
In today's competitive business landscape, staying ahead means delivering exceptional customer service. Are you tired of struggling with resource constraints, high operational costs, and inconsistent service quality? You're not alone. Many businesses face these challenges every day. But with Rich Innovations, you can overcome these obstacles and take your business to new heights. Our comprehensive call center and BPO solutions offer cost savings, access to skilled professionals, scalability, and advanced technology. Don't let challenges hold your business back. Contact Rich Innovations call center and BPO solutions today and experience the difference.
Welcome back to Talk Uncensored. I am April Hogan. I'm your host. So we just got the opportunity to interview Miss Milicent Driver and talk about her chapter, Mind Over Matter. Also talk about some of the great things that she has going on with her business, her coaching program, her podcast. So make sure that you go and follow. Make sure that you join. If you know anyone who needs this, make sure that you pass that information along. Now, our next topic is going to be about support systems, right? I'll tell you just with my own personal life and my own personal battle with my invisible illness, that you start to learn when you go through things, who's there for you and who's not, right? But you also learn as you go through things, as you learn who's not there for you, that you can't sit in a space that you're upset or you're sad or you're hurt or you're depressed because someone showed you who they were, right? And in most cases, you already knew who they were. You just didn't believe it. So let me give you guys a little bit of background information. So within my process of going through my invisible illness, I actually had my husband walk away. There's sometimes I'll give excuses for him, like, well, maybe he was just scared. Maybe he thought that things were going to fall on him in terms of the financial situation or whatever. I don't really know. I can't give you the full reasoning behind why he decided that after vows that he was going to make the decision that he wasn't going to be there. But I will tell you this, that I did know prior to this happening that he probably wasn't the one who was going to be there if I needed that, right? And I didn't really pay attention to that until after this happened. I feel like there were signs all along. I mean, signs that I ignored because I was good. Like, regardless if he's good or he's got it, I have it. So we're going to be good because I got it. We're going to be good because I'm going to take care of it. We're going to be good because I'm going to make sure things keep running and operating, right? The issue with that is when you are no longer able to operate, you are no longer able to push, you are no longer able to be the strong one. You want to be with someone who can be the strong one for you for that period of time. With that being said, it's easy to decide that you're going to be depressed because someone that not only were you there for, but you thought was going to be there for you, bailed. You thought that, even though you've been there for them, that they were going to do the same for you. But the happy part of it is, right? And you always find the happy part. The happy part of it is I was able to see, number one, that I'm going to be good either way, right? Because the only person that I should be depending on is God. And he proved plenty times over, not just this time, but prior times. And I know he'll keep on continuing to prove that he's got me and he's got you. So, but the positive part that I pull out of that situation is that you want to learn who is and who isn't there, right? Like, if you don't know, then you continue to give and give and give pieces of you. And those type of people are willing to continue to take and take and take. Like, if you're going to give it, they're going to take it, right? Someone who is an opportunist or a narcissist or someone who is only in something for themselves, they're going to take if you're going to give, right? So you can't blame them for being them. You can only blame you for not seeing it or not paying attention to it. So we get put in situations to where you have no choice but to see it. And I feel like that's what happened to me. I was in a situation where I didn't have a choice but to see where I was at or who I was with. It's a blessing in disguise. It has its terrible parts, but it's a blessing in disguise because it allows me to now know, okay, this is not somebody I should be giving to. This is not somebody I should be, spending my time on, but then also, you also have to remember that even though this is not somebody you should be giving to, this is not somebody you should be spending your times and emotions on, that you still have to forgive them. And I say that because I talked about at the beginning of the show how it's 90% how you react to something, only 10% of what happens. So if the goal is to stay out of stress, then holding on to pain that someone else decided that they wanted to kind of like place into your situation, holding on to it doesn't do anything but keep you stressed, right? Like keep you sad, keep you depressed, keep you hurt. And not to say, like I said earlier, not like it's going to go away. Like, okay, you know what? I'm not hurt anymore. Bam, the pain's gone. No, it just means that you can make the decision to hold on to it and allow that to carry you through the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next 5 weeks, the next 5 months, the next 5 years, right? You getting the distinction? You can make the choice to continue that, or you can make the choice to say, okay, everything that happens for a reason. It's never for me, it's for somebody else. So this was a teaching moment. I learned. Now someone else is going to need to learn. So I'm going to teach them. I'm going to help them. Aside from that, also realizing that some people are just in your life for a season, and that's okay. That season is over with and it served its purpose. So be okay with it. You don't know what you needed to grow through in that season, that now that season is over is now going to make you who you need to be later, right? So embracing those seasonal opportunities, even though sometimes we want to say, man, I'm so stupid. Why did I allow that to happen so long? Or man, like, why is he such a bad person or she such a bad person? Because it happens on both sides. You can sulk in that if you want to, but where is it going to get you? Right? Like nowhere. Right? So you find the lessons out of it. And sometimes finding those lessons means taking different things to help you learn what the lesson was. Because I'll be honest, there are some things that it's like, I'll think about and I'm like, what could I have learned from that? Like, maybe to pay attention. Maybe that's what I can learn from. And I'm not talking about this particular situation, but I'm talking about just situations in general. Sometimes we go through situations that was totally not our fault. And it's like, why? Like, what could I have learned from that? Like, if it's a learning lesson, what could I have learned from it? Sometimes it's just to pay attention. Sometimes it's to be patient, because we want things. I want it. God, bless me with it. Give it to me, God, give it to me. And then when he gives it to us, it's like, what? Like, that's not what I expected. So sometimes it's just learning to be patient. Sometimes it's just being okay with who you are and where you are. My aunt actually told me one time, it's my Aunt Teresa. She is a stress management coach. So she told me one time that about like how we are as people. We typically, we see what we want, right? Like, I want this big old house. I want this car. I want my business to be a multi-million-dollar company with, all these things. And I will say I'm guilty of one that, like, if I'm not where I feel like I should be at, I will get stressed or I'll get irritated or I'll be like, man, like I will have my whole sob days where I'm like, I just don't feel like I should be here right now. I should be in a whole nother position, whatever. When we don't think about where we are now is where we wanted to be a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So we always want to see the big win, the $1 million, $1 billion wins, right? Without considering all of the millions of little wins that we have made to get to where we are now, whether it's just starting, coming up with a name for your business, coming up with an image, coming up with a product, whether it's business or whether it's even just life. I don't want to just associate this completely with business. It can be just life in general. Like, hey, like I went and I applied for a job. Whether I got it or not, I applied. That's a little win, right? Like, because I could have not done that and then still expected something to just drop out of the sky. But I did that. Like, I applied for the job. I made dinner today, right? Especially for those of us who are like going through something emotional. Take those little wins. Like, I made dinner today. Even if all I did was put some spaghetti noodles in a pot and let it boil, take some spaghetti sauce, and pour it on there, put a little bit of seasoning and served it, I made dinner. So learning to count those little wins, and then remember, like, I'm not where I was yesterday. I'm in another place today, even if it just seems like it's like a very tiny step forward. You're in a better place. And another thing, it's like the thought of, okay, well, sometimes it feels like I take 2 steps forward and I take a mile back. Like I fall a mile back. First of all, failure is necessary because that's how we learn. And then just because you fell a mile back in one area of your life doesn't mean that you didn't take a million small steps in other areas of your life. So it's always easy to look and pay attention to the negative side instead of concentrating on the positive side, right? So I just want to encourage you today to think about, first of all, your biggest supporter, because we said support system. Your biggest supporter should always be you. I'm going to say that again. Your biggest supporter should always be you. No one knows how to support you if you don't know how to support you, right? If you don't know how to help pull you out of a funk, how do you tell someone else how to pull you out of a funk? It's easy to say, like, yeah, well, if I'm feeling bad, just come cuddle with me. Give me hugs. Give me kisses. Or if I'm feeling bad, just leave me alone. Like, just give me my space. But honestly, someone's hug and kisses are only covering up what it is you're going through. Like, at the end of the day, you still have to deal with it, right? Like, and they can't be with you 100% of the time, 24 hours a day. And even when they are, they're not in here, right? So you have to be able to get yourself out of a funk. Like, no one knows how to get you out of a funk if you don't. So that's first. You're your biggest supporter. Aside from that, when it comes to the people around you, pay attention. Like, don't place a burden on someone to be something that they're not, right? Like, if you are with someone and they are not supportive, don't look at, oh, he potentially or she potentially could be supportive if this happens. Because now you're placing burdens on them that they did not say that they were. I mean, even if they say it, they haven't expressed through their actions that that's who they are. And then we get mad because we place that burden on them, when we've already seen signs in most cases that that's not who they are, right? Like, with the hope of, okay, well, maybe this will happen if, and no, don't do that. Like, allow people to be who they are. And then you make the decision if you can accept that. Can you accept that they're going to be a crappy person? And if you can't, then you probably need to remove them from your life. Because then when they decide to show the crappy person that you already knew that they were, guess what? Now you mad at them. When really it's like, you should be asking yourself, well, why did you accept it? You knew that's who they were, right? So on the flip side, for those of us who are very prideful, and I will say I have my times on that too, if you have someone that is supportive, accept the support. Don't take advantage of the support. Accept the support. Accept the support, right? Like, and also realize that all support doesn't have to be financial support. All support doesn't have to be kissing your tail all the time. But if someone just asks, like, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? It goes back to, you don't know what they can do for you if you don't know what to do for you, right? So I'll go back to that. But don't deny all the support of someone trying to be there and then be mad because nobody's there. Maybe, and we tend to do this as people. I want this person to be supportive of me. But maybe somebody off of left field is the one who's asking how you're doing. But you don't even remember that they're asking because you're so focused on the fact that that person's not doing it, right? So not that no one wants to be supportive, but it goes back to, you don't know how to support you, because if you knew how to support you, you pay attention to the fact that the person that you're not paying attention to is trying to support you. So I just wanted to kind of go over that a little bit, just in terms of, like, self-awareness is so important. Like, it's so important to know your triggers, know who you are, and then self-correct. Someone told me today, the hardest thing to do is to look in the mirror. And then sometimes when we look in the mirror and we see what we want to see. We blind ourselves to all the other things that we don't want to see, and we focus on the things that we want to see. And a lot of times that's a lie. So that's the reason we don't like it when someone tells us about ourselves. right? Like, because they don't want to see what's in the mirror. Like, we don't want to see what's in the mirror. And they are being our mirror when they tell us, like, hey, like, your attitude's been nasty nowadays, right? Like, out of love, you've been acting a little funny. Now, sometimes it can be hate, but we're not talking about that. I'm talking about the real genuine people in your lives that are telling you, like, hey, like, you have been acting different, or you've been doing this, or you've been doing that. We don't want to accept it, because accepting it means we're willing to look in the mirror at ourselves, right? And we don't like the mirror because we don't like what we see. So self-awareness is important. Being your own support. And that's not just on the, oh, I got me, I'll take care of me. That's even being willing to break down and say, okay, show me. Who am I? Like, when all push comes to shove, who am I? Am I dependable? If it comes down to, like, am I one that will sit and complain? And I hate this with a passion. Am I one that will sit and complain about no one ever coming to my events? No one ever coming to anything I do? But then how many people's stuff have I went to? Right? And I'm not talking about strangers. I'm talking about family. How many family people's events have I attended? Whether I believed in them or not, whether I thought that, because it's not just because you see somebody in a certain space doesn't mean that that's where God's got them. So support has to go both ways. But oftentimes we always pay attention to the fact that no one's ever shown up for anything that I've done. But how many have you shown up to? Right? So looking at yourself first, and then looking at the outside. But even with the outside, even if I had someone who never showed up at my stuff, like, did you show up at theirs because you wanted them to show up at yours, or were you genuinely supporting? Right? So oftentimes, I feel like the world would be such a greater place if we just focused on us, focused on what we could do better, focused on how we can be better. Because at the end of the day, the reward doesn't come from that other person anyway, right? It comes from God. And he tells us the most important thing is love. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end the show. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Talk Uncensored. Get used to these little combat conversations with me, because I feel like a lot of times we need to, like, have reflection time. And this is not only reflection for those listening. Sometimes it's my reflection too. So you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I will see you guys on the next show of Talk Uncensored.